Guys, I'm onto something big. I figured it out. Okay. You take the beeps. If you take the beeps and you take each myth and you talk about the why they're beeping, right? They beep whenever the spotlights are coming out, and I think it has something to do with the. What's up, guys? It's me, JellyKnees, and I'm back. I've missed you all very much, and I want to talk about the community corner that happened because there were a lot of questions that were answered, a lot of kind of new things revealed, some things shown, some things explained more, key bindings, the whole nine yards. So, I mean, plenty to talk about there. So, let's actually just jump right into it. Get subscribed. So the first thing I do want to talk about is that the tinfoil task force was actually mentioned by a UG skifter. So congratulations, tinfoil task force, on becoming official in the ethereal world, that even UG recognizes us as a force to be reckoned with. So if you guys aren't part of the tinfoil task force, actually join the Discord, link in the description, and there's a tinfoil task force application. You react to that message and then you'll be given the tinfoil task force role. So make sure to go do that. And we have all kinds of theories we're trying to work out. So happy to have you guys there in that. But tinfoil task force, congrats. Very proud of all of you. But now for reals, the first information kind of that I want to talk about is the myth kits. One of the questions they got was talking about how there's familiarity or similarity in myth kits to what we've seen in other games, other MOBAs more specifically. And they said that that was an intentional design choice with the pre-alpha 7, is they wanted them to feel familiar yet still kind of have new elements to them. That way players could get into the game and kind of already have a baseline of where to go off of, rather than having to learn a character and the class ability and the item system and get overwhelmed really easily, which I think is a great choice by UG. I think them actively deciding to make it easier on the players, at least during the alpha where things are going to be unbalanced and need to be tested, I think was a really good choice overall. So super happy with that. Another thing they mentioned was grabs don't decrease in the time that you're held by a grab doesn't decrease with persistence, which sounds insane to me because when you're grabbed, there's nothing you can do. So for Iran's grab, we saw that he grabs Marina. When you grab somebody, there's nothing that that person can do to get out of it. So that person's just held in the grab as long as it is. No amount of persistence is going to lower that, which is kind of nuts. In a 1v1 situation, that means that grabs are really strong. So I'd be curious and kind of hopeful to see that change, unless it feels okay. Because I know Iran can get stunned out of the grab, or if he throws, the grab ends, right? But it feels like not having a way to counter that could be potentially dangerous. So we'll have to wait and see kind of how that feels and everything involved with that. They also talked about how often they're going to release myths once the pre-alpha comes out. And they're not doing hashtag every 3 weeks because we all saw how that turned out with Paragon. But they're going to do they're hoping for about a myth a month. And I think that that's probably a little ambitious, but we don't know what their backlog looks like. It's possible that they have a huge backlog of myths already basically ready to go, that they just want to implement them slowly over time. But I mean, a myth a month, I'd be super happy with that. I think that that is a bit ambitious way to go, but something that players would really enjoy, that every month you're going to have a new character, because we know about several more characters that won't be in the pre-alpha, and a lot of people are excited for those characters more than the ones we already know about. So being able to get those characters to them fairly quickly, I think is a great thing. And I hope that UG's able to stick to the myth a month. Hopefully they're under-promising, over-delivering, but we'll have to wait and see for that for sure. The other thing is that the other thing they mentioned is the overseers. There were a lot of questions on the Discord about the overseers, where they are, what's going on with them, all of that kind of stuff. And to make a long story short, the overseers have been delayed, most likely to the beta, but there's no like definitive time frame for them because of a various number of reasons, that they weren't ready. They want to let players get used to these mechanics before they start introducing new ones. 8 classes is a lot. So something like that, we're going to have to wait and see what that all looks like. But overseers are still around. They've just been delayed indefinitely to a later date. The interesting thing, though, for me, is that if they're willing to add a class later on, so such as the overseers. Yes, we've known the overseers have existed for a long time, but that opens up the potential for other classes to be added later in the stage, the life of the game as well. That 8 classes may not be all we have, that eventually we may get a ninth or 10th class added in there. So I'd love to hear what you guys would think about adding new classes in to the mix and what the class abilities would be for those classes and how it would work. Because I think there's plenty of potential to do something like that in the future. They talked about briefly jungle camps and there being so many jungle camps. 38 camps is an insane amount of jungle camps. So people were asking if you could kind of kite the jungle camps together and clear them in one go. Clear 2 camps in one go rather than having to go to each one individually, kind of trying to save as much time as possible. They said at the moment, there is no kiting camps from one to the other and trying to clear both, that the leash distance is too short for that. But it's something they're willing to explore in the future, should it be something that people feel that they need throughout the life of the game. So hopefully, I would love to see that as a jungler. I think with 38 camps, being able to kite them together and clear them faster and get those rotation times really down would be super awesome. But again, we'll have to wait and see how it feels for that in order to kind of get a good baseline of what that actually looks like. So this is where the TF was actually mentioned. Is Malaya's ultimate says that she gets lifesteal when she uses it. It doesn't specifically state which type of lifesteal. So what they revealed in the community corner was that Malaya actually gets both physical lifesteal and magical lifesteal. And the reason they kind of talked about this is somebody asked about lifesteal off of bleed effects. So Malaya's got a bleed, would she be able to lifesteal off of that? They said because the bleed is magic damage, she would need magical lifesteal to heal from it. So her ultimate will actually let her get healing from her bleed by giving her that magical lifesteal, in addition to making her basic attacks more powerful because she's going to get physical lifesteal. So very, very cool to see it go both ways and not just physical or magical lifesteal by itself. Something I certainly didn't catch, but that's where the TFTF was mentioned. So we'll definitely be keeping an eye out for little words, little things like that in the future. The one thing that I was curious about that they talked about was Talos' ability to basic attack weave between his first ability cast and his second ability cast for his first and second abilities, since they both have double cast potential. They said that you can weave his basic attacks in there, but you have to keep a really close eye on the timers, because if you're not careful, you're just going to lose the second cast, which makes perfect sense, and I totally think that that's a valid way to do this. I'm just glad that you're able to weave the basics in there. The other thing they mentioned is the interaction between Ripple Spell Rifle and Talos. So for those of you that don't know, Ripple Spell Rifle is an item in Ethereal that every time you cast an ability, your next basic attack will do additional damage. It is on a 3-second cooldown, but every time you cast an ability, extra damage on your next basic. So what a lot of people were thinking is casting his Q1 ability, basic attacking, then his Q2, then basic attacking to get 2 procs of Ripple Spell Rifle. In theory, you can do this as long as that 3-second cooldown period has elapsed between his basic attack and the Q2 of his ability, for it to proc the second Ripple spell. So from what it looked like in the video, it might be like really, really close to get that double proc of Ripple, but we'll have to wait and see how that looks. And I'm sure as the game continues and is getting more and more smoothed out, that potential may become greater in the future. So on screen, you guys are seeing Dante's ultimate UI. In the extra life test, he didn't really have anything special. It was just kind of a zoomed in look, and he shot his ultimate down the lane. But they showed us in the community corner that he's now got this like reticle, which I think looks really good, and I'm just happy to see it overall. It was one of the things that Mangoose and I mentioned after the extra life test to them, was that we needed some kind of indicator, some kind of crosshair, reticle, something along those lines to aim this with. And I'm glad they have it, and it looks incredible. So great work on that, guys. Now, the next thing is the passive icons. And I want to talk about those because some of them are fairly basic, but they offer a lot of potential in knowing what's going on with your myth. So the first one is Malaya. Malaya's passive is that when she basic attacks, she will earn stacks of her passive. At 10 stacks, she will do a cleaving auto attack and gain some life off of that auto attack. So this is just a counter to help her track how many of those stacks that she has. So something fairly basic, but good to have overall. The next one is Iran's. Very similar design in that it's basically just a counter. And this is going to count how much health Iran is getting from the soul stacks from killing minions. So this is just a quick, easy way, similar to Sevarog Q in Paragon. You're just going to be able to track how many minions you've killed, how many souls you've got because of it, and then how much health you're getting as well in that regard. So very good quality of life thing to have. And then Talos we saw briefly in his spotlight, but here it is again, and he's going to be able to get stacks when he kills or assists enemy myths, or assists in killing enemy myths, and for each stack he's getting resistances. So he's going to get armor or magic resist, or magical armor. I can't remember what it's called now off the top of my head, but magic resist for every stack that he has up to a cap. So all in all, I think very clear indicators that'll be nice to have that I can just quickly reference. Okay, I'm at 8 stacks on Malaya. I do 2 more autos on a minion, and then I have my passive ready to go. Now, probably one of the bigger things that they talked about in the community corner is key bindings. And a lot of people have really questioned the key bindings and what that's going to look like. So I kind of want to go over it with you guys. The mouse and keyboard is fairly straightforward, but the controller keybinds look really complicated. So I want to talk about all of it with you guys. So they're saying right now that the main abilities are going to be Q, E, R, F, and F. And your right click, which is your special ability. So very similar to other MOBAs, we'll have the QER. It's weird to me that your R isn't your ultimate, but I understand that they wanted that to be the third ability and then make the ultimate your F. I think from what I've heard, it sounds like most people are probably going to switch those key bindings around to either make your ultimate X, or they're going to make your ultimate R and then shift the third ability somewhere else, or the active. So then you're going to have your active 1 and your active 2. My guess for these is this is what's going to be part of your loadout. You're going to have your loadout spell and your class potion. And I think between those two, or in your loadout potion, sorry. Between those two things, I think that's what's going to fall on the X and C keys here. Your class ability will be on the shift key, which I think is a great key to have that on. It's intuitively, if you put your hand to the keyboard, kind of where your pinky sits. And if you play FPSs, you're used to using that to run. If you play, I feel like that's a great way to make this ability useful and in a good spot for it overall. Your basic attack will be on left click, and then your special ability will be on right click. Now on here, there is also the potion and the ward keys, which are defaulted to 1 and 2 respectively. I think overall, like I said, very straightforward ability mapping here. And then they have a second image that kind of goes into more rare keybinds that you're going to use. The level up keys you're going to use. So you can use the function keys F1 through 5 to level up your abilities. Or I was told that you can hold down left control and press the ability key itself, and that will also level the ability up, which is great. That's what I personally prefer to do. So people that played Paragon or Faults or Predecessor, you guys are able to kind of keep to that memory of just holding control and pressing whichever ability. So great news there. The ping and FPS counter is F8, so that'll just be a toggleable thing, I assume, that you'll see in one of the corners saying how much FPS you're getting and what your ping is to the server. Your surrender buttons, F9 to surrender, F10 not to surrender, and then a bug report button, at least early on, while they have so much testing going on at the same time. All in all, really happy to see all these keybinds and all of that stuff, and I think most of them make sense. The only one being the ultimate, maybe, that's going to be hard for some people to get used to. Now, this is the complicated one. This is the one that looks way more complicated than it really is. And I wish they had separated this out similarly to what they did with the keyboard. So what they talked about here is that these are all the buttons. You're going to have your actives, your active abilities, and your potions. So your class, your loadout ability, and your class potion, and your shop potion, health potion, mana potion, whatever it is, and a ward on your D-pad on the left side, assuming you're using a PlayStation controller like the image shows. Your movement will be on your left analog, your camera will be on right analog, fairly normal there. The scoreboard will be on the touchpad in the center of the controller. Then your basic attack, ultimate, and all of your abilities will be on the right side. The right trigger is going to be your basic attack. The right button will be your ultimate. And then the 4 buttons on the top of the controller will be your basic abilities. In addition to the X button being a jump button. So the weird thing here is L2. L2 is going to act as kind of a catalyst for changing your abilities in some way, right? So if you hold L2, it's equivalent to holding down left control like I was talking about. So if you hold L2 and press one of your ability buttons, you'll level up that ability. I think that's fairly straightforward. This image just makes it look more complicated, but it's the same function as holding control and pressing the ability. In order to use your class ability, you have to press L2 and your basic attack, your R2, in order to use your class ability. Fairly straightforward there. L1 is the same as your right mouse button if you're on mouse and keyboard, so that's your special. And then basically holding L2 is what lets you access the store, what lets you access leveling up your abilities, things like that. Change it a little bit, but it's just going to be a shift in what you're doing. It may take some getting used to. I think this image is a little cluttered, and I wish they had 2 separate images, but for the most part, I think it's understandable at the same time. But guys, that's going to do it for me on this one. I know this was a long video talking about a lot of the details in this community corner. We're back to making videos, so definitely get subscribed, ring the bell to get notifications. And I've been having some weird stuff going on recently. That like my computer glitches out and I'm seeing purple all over the place. I'm not quite sure what's going on. So hopefully that kind of clears itself up. But until then, guys, I hope you have a great rest of your day. I appreciate you very much, and I'll see you in the next one.